Alrighty, welcome back, Hawkeye fans. Well, we fell to Michigan in the Big Ten championship, but we are headed somewhere warm for the bowl game. We're going to recap that championship game. We have a special interview with Cedar Rapids native Quinn Schulte, and we're going to just be talking about the state of college football and the landscape of the NCAA in general. This is Talkin Hawks, presented by Hills Bank. Thanks for coming back.
No matter where you are in life, Hills Bank is here to help you succeed. Whether you're buying your first house, saving for your child's future, or preparing for retirement, you can count on the people at Hills Bank for the support you need to reach your goals. It's easy to connect with a banker in person, over the phone, or on hillsbank.com because we believe banking is better through human connection. Hills Bank is an equal housing lender and FDIC member.
Hey, Matt.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Well, we have a delayed episode this week.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but timing things, the team stays in Indianapolis that night just because it's a late night. So excited to have that interview though.
Yes, we wanted to get an interview this week just because coming off of that big game, obviously getting the information on Sunday with the bowl game. And then, like you said, they weren't back until Sunday at some point, and that was kind of their day off. So we don't want to bother them at that point. Going to have Quinn Schulte on. I'm super pumped. Cedar Rapids native, like myself.
Oh yeah, just a stone's throw.
Okay. All right. Last week, we have to talk about this. Last week, our episode went crazy.
It blew up.
It was so wild. It was like we logged back onto YouTube, and it was like, another 1,000, like another 10 comments. I was like, whoa, we're just, and we have like really good viewership week after week. And
Thank you guys.
Yeah, a really good fan base, and it's amazing. Then all of a sudden, we just had this episode completely blow up with Cade, and it was very interesting to see, that is for sure. And then just a little tiny snippet got out, and it was so
unbelievably annoying.
It's
so annoying. Like, I think you and I try to do our best to let the players tell their story as best they can, you know, and it's not just like, oh, well, I see cover 2, so this is the scheme that I would like. It's okay. So Cade lived in Vegas and then basically tried to do a bunch of stuff in California, goes to Michigan, like being able to tell that story, but instead they took a snippet of it, Michigan fans did, and tried to make a narrative based on that clip versus the entirety of the full hour that we sat down with him. And so that was really unfortunate. You know, everything here, we try to be positive. Obviously not everything's going to be, you know, sunshines and rainbows, but to have, and I think that's kind of media in general that I get really annoyed with, is to try and fit whatever it is you're trying to do. You'll take a piece of it, turn it, twist it into what it wasn't intended for. Because I got over 1 million views, just that little snippet.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't need to go off on it anymore. It's just really unfortunate and really irks me.
Yes, because it really was. It was an awesome conversation. And I'm sure the people that actually took the time to sit down and watch it knew that. And he said that the name Michigan 15 times, I think. Matthew, our producer, actually went through and like looked at the transcript of it. And I think it was actually 15 times that he said the word Michigan. So it wasn't that he didn't want to say it.
You're so stupid.
But I digress. We're just, Cade is a friend of the pod, you know? And so we're just trying to stick up for him. And anyway, excited for his recovery and to see what happens next year with that. That was an awesome conversation. I had so much fun.
Agreed.
Anyway, my heart doesn't handle that kind of stuff very well, Matt. You know this about me.
You don't handle constructive criticism from others well.
Okay, some of it wasn't constructive though.
No, some of those were just mean comments.
Yeah.
But like, and then that's the other unfortunate part too of like social media, is that people can get really mean really quick.
You know.
And there really isn't a purpose for it, in my opinion. But it is what it is.
Anyway, and I would say too, I think we do try to discuss things in a positive light, but also like a factual light too. Not just like negative factual, but just like, this is what happened. This is what happened. And maybe there's an answer, or maybe there's a reason, maybe there's no reason or whatever. And we can't figure it out, but like, This is what happened kind of situation. Anyway.
So let's go on to the game.
Well, hold on. I want to play a game really quick.
Well,
because we played a game last time. And so now I feel obligated that we have to do at least one more, because this is one that I introduced to you just a couple of weeks ago. So if you hate this kind of stuff and you're just really not a fan of the banter, go ahead and skimp through. But so there's this girl on TikTok, and she, I know, I told you about her, and I need to find out what her name is, but maybe some people will know this. So they did this on one of my favorite podcasts, like a few months ago. And I was like, wait, that's so funny. And so now I want to do it on our podcast. So I'm stealing this from somebody else that this girl on TikTok does. Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I knew her name so I could give her credit. But anyway, so she sings this song and she goes, when you know the words to the song, sing along, sing along. Okay. So then you have to say that before you do anything. Like you have to start it with that.
Yeah.
and
We played this at the house. I don't know how many stupid
it's my favorite. And then you just say like one little tiny word, like one little syllable of a word in a
I
song.
have to figure out what you're saying.
And you have to figure out what song I'm singing.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I can't wait.
Okay. It's
beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Do you see that? It's actually so impressive. Like, it's actually so amazing how you can say, like, how many words say it's in, or how many songs say it's in it.
Well, I was thinking about time of the year, and I was thinking about
I'm just saying
the amount of snowmen that Dax has pushed in different songs that play from those snowmen.
I'm just saying that there's so many
Those of you
times,
that know the snowmen, they're rampant in our house.
I'm just saying that there's so many times where I've just sang little me of a song and you've gotten it. Okay, that's all I wanted to do. That's literally that's it.
Well, at least I passed.
You did so good. Thank
Thanks.
you. And I did not tell him we were going to do that. So that was
No, there was no preface before that. Otherwise I would have nixed it. I'm kidding.
All right, let's go on to the game.
Let's do it.
So if you skipped through, welcome back. We're going to talk about the game now. So, Matt, I just want to say this. It was a good game. Like we had a few unfortunate mishaps that aren't very Iowa-like in terms of mistakes or turnovers, which is not typical Iowa football. And also a couple of calls that I think are slightly questionable, in my own personal opinion. And aside from that, I don't think the score was indicative of how the game actually went. Like if you woke up the next day and you looked at the score, you'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's what we thought was going to happen. But if you actually watched the game, it was a good game. I really, truly think we played well.
So this again, and I had people back at the Iowa State one when I said that score did not indicate how the game went. It's exactly what it is. You think Michigan went all over, whatever, 26-0. Their longest drive was 59 yards. And every drive that wasn't, every drive that was longer than 6 yards either resulted in a punt or a field goal.
Dang.
That's it. Like they had one drive that was 6 yards and they scored a touchdown. The other one was 5 and they scored a touchdown. Like when you're handed the ball basically there, it's really difficult. Now, our defense has done goal line stops before, but like by far the best defensive outing. And actually with that, I also want to say congratulations to Coach Phil Parker for winning the Broyles Award. Probably about 25 years overdue. He's been here since 1999 with KF got here. He's done a tremendous job. I think the best DB award for the Big Ten, I believe there's been 13 total. And an Iowa DB has won at 6 out of the 13.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he knows what he's doing back there. Mm-hmm. And our defense is always top notch. You talk about developing guys. We went to the transfer portal, got Nick Jackson, who was a great addition this year. He was an all conference player at Virginia, being able to come over here. But then
you
to
guys
have
like Jay Higgins, that's been here and was sitting behind Jack Campbell.
Exactly.
Who else?
Seth Benson.
Yep, that's what I'm forgetting. And then Quinn Schulte, who we're going to talk to today. Sorry,
so you have more developmental side,
yeah.
Of that, being able to sit, and especially that defensive line. I mean, there's always rotating pieces there, always guys moving on to the NFL, and how do you replace all those guys? Well, Coach Parker just goes out and finds 2-star recruits. I think about guys that I played with, like Josie was a 2-star recruit out of Decorah, Desmond was a 2-star recruit out of Detroit. They come down, and then he just finds a way to make them football players. So really, really happy for Coach Parker. Absolutely deserves it. And then his defense put the offensive coordinator, who was also up for the Broyles Award, his worst performance under the Harbaugh era. Mm-hmm. So you want to talk about, I said that I'd rather face this offense, and I think I was correct in that with the way that our defense performed. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, they only rushed 66 yards.
And everybody said that Blake Corum was going to run all over and stuff like that, but our defense is just fundamentally sound. Our rush defense was really good. No big plays. Every now and then, I think there was one right at the end of the half where I think Donovan Edwards got like 15 yards or something, but then that was it. But our defensive line played really well, which allowed Jay Higgins to have 15 tackles. Just continues to rack them up. It's incredible.
All right, so let's talk about their passing. Like, really wasn't as great as maybe people were expecting either,
Oh,
right?
man.
They
Everybody-
definitely did.
yeah.
They picked on Deshaun Lee a little bit, which I think we kind of expected because Cooper's not over in that side anymore.
Yeah. And really, it's just because he was playing off coverage. So they were trying to take 7-8 yards at a time because you can't get the big play against Iowa. I think they had one across the middle. It was the very first drive. It was like a deep in on 3rd down or 2nd down. And after that, like, that was it. And actually, after that specific play, Quinn Schulte like goes like this, like, how do we allow them to even get one?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the standard at Iowa.
That's what I was going to say. I think sometimes in opening drives for other teams, you'll see maybe 1 or 2 of those. And then my thought is always, oh, they'll adjust.
Like they saw it. That's
Every
it.
time.
They've seen it now. That's it. I mean, it's true. Normally it just takes a little bit to settle in and then that's it. But their pass game, JJ McCarthy, I don't think he did great. Now they did have a couple drops, but that's because our coverage was really tight. They had a couple like open drops. I think there was a tight end across the middle. Just takes his eyes off of it, things like that. But defensive line, we got 4 sacks against a guy who's known for being able to move outside the pocket, and that's called rushing with discipline. You know, Ethan Herkett had a really big one, another Xavier guy, where they did a stunt and he looped around. And a lot of times those guys can loop inside too quick because they want to get to the quarterback now. Well, when you do that, you allow for a lane to go outside. He goes wide to make sure that JJ McCarthy can't do anything unless he crosses his face, to which he'll go make the tackle, tries to run away, makes a big time sack. I think it was like a 15-yard sack. So our pass game, I felt, was really good defensively. Outside of the one that Nick Jackson could have had, that's really the only play where you're like, they didn't do what they were supposed to. You know, I mean, that's the only one. And even then, it's just putting ourselves in an opportunity to make plays, which defensively just continues to do over and over again, which is a testament to Coach Parker and the staff that he's really built on that side of the ball.
Yeah, that one with, you said Nick Jackson. We were like, it's one of those ones where you watch and you're like, no.
Right. And he sat underneath the route, baited JJ to throw it, and then unfortunately just couldn't come up with it.
All right. You want to hop to our offensive side of the ball?
Let's do it.
Okay. Couple of turnovers. Well, 3 to be exact.
Yeah. We had a decent drive there going towards the end of the second quarter, going into halftime. And I think that Jazz Patterson fumble, I think, was the biggest play of the game because that gets us on the board, gets you a little confidence, you know, because I think we're at about the 30-yard line, which would have been roughly a 47-yard field goal-ish. Indoor conditions, you expect us to hit that. So it's a play action and it's a rollout. And by watching the film, I can't tell if it's meant to be a flood concept that way and Jazz was just the guy that got there, or and what I mean by flood concept is that the nearby, it was kind of like a wing tight end. We were in 13 personnel. Wing tight end runs a deep corner. And then the next guy, which that would have been Pascuzzi. The next guy was Stylianos, which he might do like a, I've heard it referred to as a waggle. I've heard it referred to as like a chip and go or a bang and go, where essentially he just hits the defensive end and then drives out. Now he's the flat. And then you got Jazz going there too, because they might, the corner might sit back on the corner or the corner might come up on the quick out and then you hit Jazz one-on-one. The other thing is it could have been a screen where it's a fake stretch play to the same side and then Deacon throws it to him and he's got 2 tight ends out lead blocking for him. Now, the problem here is they run blitzed off that side and they threw Pascuzzi to the ground. Well, he can't do anything when he's on the ground. So that already loses one guy out there. And the reason I think it's a screen is because once he gets up, he goes and blocks somebody. Stylianos then turns and tries to like seal a backer, potentially if he was a man-to-man coverage, seal a backer, realizes nobody's there, and then he turns and runs out. But the problem is nobody got out to the corner, who that Sandverstil, I butchered that name, number 0. Yeah, that was bad. Number 0 for Michigan, really good player, and he's the one who forced both fumbles, or 2 of the 3 fumbles, I should say. But nobody goes out to him, so he's just standing there waiting for Jazz. And because they brought pressure, Deacon had to throw it. Jazz had to catch a weird turn, and then boom, helmet right on the ball. Michigan came up with it. But what's big there is had we run the flood concept or had we run like a normal boot concept, somebody should have been in his zone and he would have had to react to the guy in his zone. But because we went screen and nobody picked him up, there was nothing for him to focus on. He's just standing there in his zone waiting for somebody to come. Jazz is right there. Boom, he comes up, makes the play. So that one was just the most unfortunate based on the timing of everything. Defense comes out, puts out a fire, just like they always do. But that play I thought was pretty significant.
So then the other turnovers were both Deacon. And I want to talk about the first, I think this was the first one, right? The fumble.
The fumble that wasn't?
Air quotes.
Or the incomplete pass that wasn't. Yeah, the invalid.
I just want to call everything invalid.
The invalid throw. Yes.
That covers everything in the rule book. You just call it invalid. That's it. That was tough. That was a rough one. And that obviously ended up being a touchdown too. That was just a strange situation. Felt very, it's giving Minnesota. That's all I can say. Right?
So the ref call, I'll let you kind of elaborate more on that. But
yes. They were saying that his elbow and his forearm were going forward, but his his hand wasn't. So if I'm thinking about that, like with my anatomy, biology background, I just don't know. I don't know how that would work. Are you questioning if that was biology too? Relax. It can be anything. I just don't know if my forearm can go forward without my hand also following in some sort of way. You know?
I don't know, but that's only the first part of it, in my opinion.
Okay.
They blew it dead.
Okay, yes. You're so right. You're so right. They
Go
blew
ahead.
it dead. And then the Michigan guy, he just grabbed it to hand it back to the ref because that's what you do after a play is over. So our guys didn't even try to go after it. And so the rule book was like, well, if they call it dead and then somebody...
There's a clear recovery.
Yes. And there's a clear recovery, which I don't know if I would call that a clear...
It's a clear and obvious recovery. So there's no doubt that he recovered it, essentially, is what the rule means.
Got it. It just wasn't an intentional recovery.
You're
It
not wrong.
It was just to pick it up, just to hand it back to the ref. I think everybody has like covered this on the Twitter verse enough and everywhere else. But anyway, super annoying.
The only part that really annoys me is it bounces twice. It bounces at like the 8, then it bounces again at the 10. When it bounces at the 8, you can see the ref come in and blow it dead. And you can listen to the play and it's dead at the first time it bounces. So if you're an Iowa guy and the ref is coming in doing this and they're blowing the whistle, you're probably just done. You're going to go back and go ready for the next play. So the Michigan guy picks it up to give it to the ref. That's a clear and obvious recovery, but it's clearly after the whistle. When the whistle's blown, play's dead.
Yeah. And the thing is...
It's like it's the opposite of the invalid fair catch, where a whistle wasn't blown. And then they called it dead.
Well, the crazy thing is that like you'll have Michigan people or non-Iowa fans that would be like, well, it's not just that one play that would win you guys the game because blah, 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 you know, all the things. But really, it's like, well, hold on, because of that play, like
It was still a big play.
it was a big
regardless.
play, and it came out to be points on the board.
So
like-
what's tough about the whole situation, though, is I'm going to go back to the actual play and like why it happened.
Okay.
So we were in 13 personnel on 2nd and 7. And prior to this, I had said we can't fall into that trap of running on second and 10. And so they were going to use that against Michigan. And so they went 13 personnel. But the problem is when you're in 13 personnel, you're bringing more people into the box. And one thing that I had talked about before is I wanted to widen the box to run, because that way I can get numbers. I can get 6 on 6, including my running back. So 5 on, they'll probably leave 6 in the box just because whatever, we're Iowa. But at the same token, like if you widen it, it's a little bit easier. When you bring more people in, you bring more people in. Like that's just what it is. The DBs are going to come up. The linebackers are going to come up because they expect run. So we go play action. Well, we brought more guys in and Michigan did a run blitz. A run blitz is basically like they're covering all their gaps with somebody right now. So that way when you go to run, you don't get very far. Jazz actually aborts the fake is what they call it. So essentially Jazz is supposed to go through, do a play fake and whatever, but his guy blitzes. So you can see Jazz take his guy out. He like puts his shoulders right on the guy's thigh, takes him out. But the problem is because they were run blitzing, they had 2 guys over our 2 wings or tight ends, and they both came. So Jazz only took 1. Deacon didn't abort the fake. So he's going to turn. And as he turns, the guy just came scot-free. Well, play action inevitably is going to take a little bit longer, but he didn't abort the fake, which probably should have been a hot. And a hot, I mean, like if somebody blitzes and you can't account for him, then the quarterback has to account for him by throwing the ball. And usually like your guy's going to run a quick hitch or replace him, so to speak. But because they brought a run blitz and we didn't have enough to block him, we tried to use their aggressiveness against them, and it may have worked. I don't know how the backside of the play looked, but like we didn't have it. So that inevitably left Deacon one-on-one with the DB who's screaming at him, and he just turns around trying to get rid of it. I mean, it was a poor situation in the beginning.
Got it.
But then to double down with the invalid fumble throw, it just kind of made everything worse.
Bummer. Okay, then we had another one. One other turnover.
Another one.
Did you want to talk about that?
Three turnovers. It's just unfortunate, the way it goes down. It just kind of seemed like our tackles just weren't getting enough depth. On the last one, it looked to me like, I talked about the Penn State game because Deacon had a very similar, kind of seemed like Deacon's been hit kind of in the pocket where fumbled. I can't remember if it was Minnesota or if it was another game that he got hit and fumbled from the backside. But I remember talked about Penn State that we weren't getting depth. We weren't doing kick steps and it looked like we weren't doing it again. And maybe that's just because we were tired or something, or maybe he's banged up that we don't know about. Like we know DeYoung on the other side is very banged up. He had like all the stuff on just trying to even get out there and play. So like we didn't get the kick step, we didn't get any depth, or maybe Deacon's not stepping up into the pocket enough, but there's a disconnect between the two, which leads to big hits like that, which unfortunately ball came out. Again, defense goes out there, puts out a fire, only allows a field goal. Defense did great. Offense, obviously, we'll see what happens here with Brian coaching the bowl game, or at least I anticipate him to coach the bowl game. I also anticipate they'll probably hire somebody between now and then who's just going to be there until the end of the season and then take over just because they want, recruiting and stuff like that to get that underway. And then the last part, special teams that we haven't talked about yet.
Well, you didn't really talk too much about the run game either. Did you want to mention that?
I mean, I mentioned it a little bit when I talked about how we ran it on 2nd and 7. I thought that we'd widen the box or put people out wide, which you did go empty a lot. We did a lot more bunches and things. We were hitting Caleb Brown on quick hitches. We hit Addison Ostrenga on a quick hitch, and Addison Ostrenga, I think had 5 catches. So he's continuing to get involved, and I think he's going to be a dog once he gets older. But we were trying to get the ball out of Deacon's hands quick in the pass game, and in the run game, we would use Caleb Brown on end arounds, who's a former running back. So he knows how to take a handoff, and we've learned that he's a dynamic player. With Deontay Vines announcing that he's going into the transfer portal, it kind of opens up windows for Caleb Brown moving forward. But it's just unfortunate. I thought that we'd widen a little bit just to try and help our run game out, but that also would change what Iowa does. And it's not always good to change week 13. Right. You want to stay true to what you do because that's what the guys know. But at the same token, it's just how consistent can you be doing that? And unfortunately, we just didn't have enough.
Sure. Okay, special teams. I know that when it happened, immediately after it happened, you were like, that's it. You literally, you said this. That's it. That's my unsung hero. That's it. Number 4. That's it. And I was like, oh, well, okay. What happened? Clearly I'm not looking at the things you're looking at, but went national pretty much. Viral. It was everywhere, all over Twitter, all over social media, tons of coaches sharing it, which I thought was really cool, but go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah. So Cohen Entringer, by the way, for that reason, he's not my unsung hero, but I do appreciate the effort. The unfortunate part is that the technique wasn't great between him and I believe it's Bostic on the other side as a gunner. So the technique of a gunner is when you get down, and the rule is, or at least it was, if you're within 7 yards, you take your shot. And by taking your shot, that means you dive at the opposite hip. So if I'm on the right side, I dive at the left hip, because the goal of the gunner, yes, you want to get him down, but the goal of the gunner is to make the punt returner go sideways so he can't get downhill. But both of our gunners went to the near hip. They didn't cross. Oh. So he was able to split them, and then he was able to find a seam and then go. When really, I think Entringer was in I want to say he was at 5 or 4 yards. So he's within that take a shot range, but he stayed on the near hip instead of cross hip.
Got it.
So the technique obviously can continue to get better. Now the effort was great on the back end, but also he hasn't been doing it a lot. That's Cooper's backup. Mm-hmm. So he's only been doing it for a couple of weeks. Now, granted, he's been practicing and stuff, obviously ready for this moment. But then, so he just sprinted 65 yards. Missed a tackle. He's on the 5-yard line. And then he gets up and sprints 90 yards.
Put him in the Olympics.
I saw him running those last 10 yards up, those hammies got to be screaming.
That and the strides were it was 5 yards a stride. I was like, what? How is this happening? That was amazing.
And to give our defense a chance, because it's not unheard of that our defense has goal line stands. Now, again, it led to a touchdown, but the fact of the matter, giving that kind of effort, that's what Iowa is. Now, obviously we want to clean up the technique on the front side, but to give that kind of effort can't go unnoticed, which is why it went viral. Because everybody's like, I want this dude. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did see, I think it was an XFL coach that was like, give me 20 of these guys.
His son actually plays quarterback at Iowa State this year. It was Rocco Beck's dad.
Oh, for real?
And he played tight end in the league for like 10, 15 years for the New York Jets.
Cool. I like the name Rocco a lot. Keep that in your back pocket.
Next.
Okay. I will say I'm very impressed with Weejan. I love his punt returning. He looks like he's running downhill immediately. He's got really good quick twitch. Does that sound right?
Laura.
It's like immediately when he catches it, shoo, he goes. He looks fast.
I think he's going to take over well for Cooper.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to be Cooper, but definitely on kickoff return. And it's unfortunate that we fair catch and stuff like that, which I also understand. Just give the ball at the 25 and go. But I think you got a dynamic player in Weejan on both punt return and kick return, and that's a good thing moving forward.
Yeah, he's very fun to watch. And then obviously Torrey did his thing. Looked pretty good.
Yeah, he had the only other part about that long punt return is it looked like his kick was a little bit quicker than he normally does.
Oh, okay. Which
potentially may have affected the hang time, his guys getting down there. But because I noticed he took his time a little bit more later on. So it's kind of interesting how the whole operation plays together, but that's why football is such a great team sport.
Okay, let's hop into so it was going to be Entringer, but since now he's a sung hero.
I was going to say he's sung now.
Not quite unsung. Who is your unsung hero brought to you by JB Roofing?
I'm going to go with Deshaun Lee.
Okay.
Now, we kind of talked about that they picked on him a little bit because he's filling in for Cooper, which understandably makes sense. But he made the open field tackles when he had to, and he didn't allow a big play. Like he stepped in, they may have completed 4 or 5 yards, but then he tackled them for 4 or 5 yards. There was the 1 4th and 7 that I think he gave up like a 9-yard out to Cornelius Johnson on the other side. And he's a good player in his own right. But I mean, the fact of the matter is they tried to pick on him and it didn't really matter. It was just the short stuff. He got beat against Nebraska and he didn't allow that to affect what was going to happen against much better receivers for Michigan. And he just went out there and did his job. Unsung in my opinion, because filling in for, a top tier DB, the Tatum Woodson award winner. And he just steps in and he's like, okay, I'll just take care of my business. That's what he did. So
next man in.
Deshaun Lee, unsung hero.
Very good. All right, we're going to hop into our interview with Quinn Schulte here in just a couple minutes. We'll be right back. Need a new roof, gutter, or siding in Eastern Iowa? Call JB Roofing, a local and reliable roofer with over 20 years of experience. They do one roof at a time, unlike others who juggle multiple projects and cut corners. They also serve a 45-mile radius around Kelowna and help you with any insurance claims. Don't wait. Call 319-656-ROOF or visit their website, jbroofingkelowna.com, for a free estimate. JB Roofing, the small town roofer you can trust. Hey, Matt, did you know that Iowa City Tire does more than just tires?
Yeah. I mean, they've been servicing the corridor for like 40 years.
Okay, but did you know that until somebody had to tell you?
No, I didn't.
Well, hey, check out how they're doing things in a very different way at Iowa City Tire and Service, where service actually comes first. Visit ictire.com. Okay, welcome back. We've got a very special guest joining us today from the Iowa defense. Everyone, please welcome Quinn Schulte. Quinn, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
We're good. A Cedar Rapids native.
That's right. Yep.
Just like myself. I went to Cedar Rapids Prairie.
Yep.
And you went to?
Cedar Rapids Xavier.
Cedar Rapids Xavier. Okay, so I was doing a little background. Your dad is kind of like a Cedar Rapids legend.
Some would say, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, we will get into that just a little bit, but talk to me about just like your childhood. Obviously, your dad being a coach, I'm assuming sports was a pretty big part of it, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say, like all of us, as soon as I can remember, we had a ball in our hands,
All of us.
I got 2 older brothers and then a younger sister. So Bryce actually played tight end here too.
I remember that name. Yeah, when she started doing a deep dive, I was like, I remember Bryce.
Yep. And so, yeah, we was just outside all the time playing sports, doing whatever. So.
Okay. And then.
Well, hold on. What? So we're talking flag football, basketball, baseball, like everything?
Yeah. I mean, it was, so we kind of had like the football, like everyone would come over and we play football in the backyard. And then
yes,
that was during football season, obviously. In summer, it was like wiffle ball season, baseball.
Okay.
So we had the wiffle ball set up and then.
So you had like the full, like the.
Well, it was just kind of the way that like the house is kind of built. There's like, our house is like left field was the house, but it was like a white, it's a white house. And so we call it like the white monster, kind of like the green monster.
Okay.
So me and Bryce were lefties though. And there was a shorter fence on the right field side. So Bryce kind of took advantage of that and hit a lot of home runs, but
Smart.
yeah. But and then we played basketball too, and capture the flag and stuff like that. So
this was like neighborhood people, all your good friends.
That sounds like my
Charpers,
dream
yeah.
childhood.
Charpers, yes.
Yep.
Big shout out to them because family friends.
Yep.
Both of us. Okay, look at this. Cedar Rapids it's a big city, but it's a small town, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Anyway.
No way.
Okay, so then just like your kind of sports background, what all did you play? What were you involved in aside from football, I guess?
When it came to like organized stuff.
Yeah.
In high school.
Whenever.
Yeah. Like what you started.
Well, in high school, I did all 4: the football, basketball, baseball, and track.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was busy.
That's a lot. Oh, my goodness. And so baseball, what did you play?
Senior year, shortstop.
Shortstop.
Yeah, they put the athletic people there.
Very good. You didn't play baseball, did you?
No.
Matt? Okay.
No. You didn't have to like put me on blast.
I didn't know if you played shortstop.
Well, I played baseball in first grade, and I had a
Then
pitch whiz past my face, and I was like, I'm not
He
doing
said,
this
"That's
again."
good, I'm
yeah,
done.
I'm like, that's it. I'm out. I'd rather get hit by somebody else than a ball.
Right.
That's so lame.
Yeah.
Okay, so then track, what did you run?
Just like sprints. Honestly, I wasn't very good at track. Like I should have taken it more seriously probably, but it was just kind of a way to stay in shape for football. So
Did you jump at all?
I did freshman year and then, sophomore year, because coach said that if you jumped, you could like get out of running a race. But I don't know if that really held up true. So then junior and senior year, I stopped jumping because I was
you
still in
were
the same
running the
amount of
race
races. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Love
So
it.
then let's see. Baseball, track. What was the other one? Football?
Basketball.
Basketball. Okay, so basketball was that big for you or just kind of another thing to do?
yeah, it was
Or-
big growing up, definitely. And then in high school, it was big too. We won 2 state championships when we were there. Yeah. So
That's incredible. So doing a little deep dive on you, obviously ahead of time. So you had the 2 state championships in basketball. You won state in baseball?
yes,
How many times?
once.
Once. And then in football as well?
Yes.
Once.
Twice.
Twice?
Yes.
So you have 6 state championships? Did I count that right?
5. My dad likes to say we won baseball 8th grade year.
Okay.
Like a ring, kind of.
Uh-huh.
My dad likes to say it counts that as 6.
6 state championships. That's incredible.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So you've come from like basically a history of winning.
Sure.
That's kind of crazy.
And then you get on the Hawkeye defense, and here you are again, just winning.
Yeah. Trying. Yeah.
Very good. I love it. So then your dad, I talked about him being kind of a legend.
Hold
What?
on. We'll go back to that because now that you prefaced it by saying getting to Iowa. So how'd you get to Iowa? It was a walk on, right?
Yeah. So the recruiting process was, it is what it is, as you know, but had a couple like walk on spots and stuff like at the bigger schools like Iowa State, UNI, stuff like that. And I just decided to choose the Hawks kind of because Bryce was here too.
I mean, that was it. Like between Iowa State, UNI.
That's what it came down to. I mean, the FCS schools, I talked to as well.
Like South Dakota State, North Dakota State.
Yeah. Western Illinois, stuff like that.
Is that because of camps or is that strictly from you playing at Xavier?
Strictly just playing at Xavier.
So you didn't go to any camps or anything?
I went to Iowa State, and UNI.
Okay.
Yeah, just the in-states.
So the 3 that you actually like wanted to pursue, you're like, I might as well go to the camp.
Well, I visited the other ones on like, visits and stuff. Like I visited South Dakota State, North Dakota State, South Dakota, and Western Illinois. But
Okay.
yeah,
I think we got a couple. I think Miles Taylor is still at USD.
he is. Yep.
He's a trip.
He's coaching up the DVs there.
You doing something?
Did
no, I
you
like Miles.
you played quarterback in high school, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of weird that then did you play defense? I'm assuming too. in
Yeah,
high school,
safety
though?
as well. Yeah.
Got it. So that wasn't
Yeah, I was always recruited as like a safety.
understood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you were the quarterback at 2 state championships, and they were like, "No, we don't like the quarterback side of it."
Yeah, I guess not. But
What kind of quarterback were you? What was your style?
I would say I was more like a dual threat anyways. So like, I don't know if I could throw it, the best, but it was good enough.
I mean, that's honest.
Yeah.
But being a linebacker on the other side, you were okay with being hit. So you're like, I'll just truck down. No big deal. Just
Yeah.
run with
It was fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So then your dad, as I was getting into, was your coach in high school.
Yep.
And he's
Yep.
still coaching at Xavier?
Yep.
And
Yep.
he's been coaching there since what year?
Since it started. So 1998.
So he literally came with the building.
Yeah.
Wow. Is
That's
anything named after him?
No.
Not yet.
Yeah, no.
There gonna be a statue someday?
No. Hopefully, like this field right now is named Saints Field, but hopefully, it might be named after him.
What's his name? Dwayne?
Yep.
Dwayne Schulte Field. Sounds good.
That actually does sound pretty solid.
But he's got a pretty impressive record. I think I saw, how many state titles has he won?
4.
4 state titles.
Mm-hmm.
And then how many
It was
times?
like 19.
19 times he's been to the playoffs? Probably more. This might have been.
Yeah, I don't
really
know that
old,
stat, but
a lot.
yeah.
And then he was actually coaching, it was like LaSalle and Regis before it became Xavier.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So those are the middle schools now. He coached at LaSalle for 4 years, I think, before they combined to make Xavier.
Okay. So that would have been 94. So he's been coaching in Cedar Rapids at either LaSalle or Xavier for almost 30 years.
Yep.
That is amazing.
I know.
What was that like having your dad as your coach?
It's like a good thing and a bad thing, as you know. I mean, you come home and, your dad's going to be on you about, as the coach, but he's also,
So you get yelled at practice, did he get yelled at home?
Well, not really yelled at, but just like, you have to be on top of everything, all the time. Kinda, so
as far as like house chores, that kind of thing.
Just like schoolwork, stuff like that, make sure you're extra reps or something too. Like, at least that was us as kids,
Right. And
Sorry, go ahead.
He's a teacher too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Xavier? What do you teach?
He teaches law, econ, and government.
So you couldn't fail those. That's for sure.
Well, I took econ and government with him.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Did you ever get coached by somebody else growing up when it was strictly football?
yes. It actually, in middle school, Kenny Charper coached me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so,
Very good.
I mean, they all, he has an assistant coach too, named Coach O'Connell, who he's been coaching with since 1994.
Mhm.
So they all, eventually they all kind of coached the basketball team too that we played on. So it was, practices were tough, games were tough. They always got on us. So
Was it kind of like refreshing, or maybe you hadn't gotten to the point where your dad was going to coach you all the time, or was it nice? Like, I'm trying to figure out. So I got a 2.5-year-old son, and it's like, I've been asked like, do you want to coach his teams and stuff like that? And I haven't really like thought about if that would be a good move or not. Was it like when you went to go play those other sports, like did your dad coach baseball?
yeah.
Oh, so he coached you like all sports all the time.
Yeah. Except for football, because he was coaching football, obviously at high school.
Got you.
Yeah.
Was it like a kind of breath of fresh air when somebody else coached you, or did you not like it because you were used to his style?
A little bit of both, I would say. I mean, I think my dad's like one of the best coaches that I've ever been coached by.
You're not
honestly.
biased, so that's good.
Right. But I mean,
Sorry, but
I've been
state
coached by,
I know, like these
They
actually
speak
got
for
the stats.
themselves.
Yeah.
been coached by like a lot of greats, like Coach Parker as well. But I think that just like seeing my dad, how he operates is like unbelievable in terms of any other coach as well. But also, I don't know, I just think I've been blessed to have, a bunch of people in my life, like the other coaches that did a really good job as well. So I would say like, I'd recommend coaching your kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as I'm not like a piece of crap.
Yeah.
What's his coaching style? How would you describe it, and why is it so great?
I would say like, it's kind of like his practices are like super intense, but then like when you get like to the game, he's more like laid back, like just wants you guys to succeed, and he'll give you like praise and stuff, when you deserve it or when you need it. So he kind of knows each and every player, and how to coach them.
It's more about building the relationship and then understanding how that player responds to different things.
Right.
Those are some of the best coaches. We've definitely found that out. And like, having different relationships with coaches, and obviously him playing with a lot of different players and keying in on everybody's different personalities and how that can play into the team. That's very interesting.
And that can be misconstrued too. Like when I was a young player, BK was my receivers coach, Bobby Kennedy. And I thought that like he quote played favorites. And like, cause he's responding to this guy differently or talking differently.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I got older that it's like, oh no, he's just trying to make him the best player he could be. And he requires different communication than I do to get to where I want to be. Like it's a really weird nuance, but at the same token, like that's how you get the most out of your players, in my opinion.
Right. And I think, everyone responds differently to like different type of coaching too. So like some guys you can get on more, and some guys you don't really need to talk too much, but yeah.
And probably 30 years of coaching, you can
Yeah.
you can learn that a little bit.
Right.
Okay, very good. So then walk on at Iowa. And your brother was playing here. How many years older is he than you, Bryce?
2 years older.
2 years older. So you got to play with him for a couple of years. What was that like? You've always just had family in the football business.
Yeah. It was really cool, honestly. And the first time I walked out at Kinnick too, in the swarm, and me and him were holding hands together in the back. So my dad really likes that one. But
do you have a picture of it?
Yes.
Nice.
Is it framed?
Yes.
Even better.
Yes.
And then we got on the field for the same time versus Nebraska in 21 for like a kickoff return. So that was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then he graduated. What's he up to now?
He's at law school right now at Drake. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. And then you have another brother?
Yeah, Reggie.
And what's he up to?
He coaches and teaches at Xavier too.
And he played at UNI?
Yep.
Nice. And
Quarterback.
Quarterback. And how many years older is he than you?
Like 5.
5 years. Okay. Then he
I got some dudes.
Yeah, UNI, Iowa, and then you said a younger sister and a younger brother?
Younger sister.
Just a younger sister.
Yep.
Okay. And what's she do?
She goes to UNI for school. Yeah.
Nice. Was she an athlete too?
She was a cheerleader and dancer.
So yes.
So you're gonna leave that up for you're
Okay, that's what I did too.
Yeah.
Yes, always involved in athletics, like to be around it.
Yep.
But that's just what it is.
She likes to run too. She did cross country. So
Okay.
yeah.
Very good. And she's at UNI. What's she studying?
She's like journalism and then kind of teaching too. So I think she's deciding what she wants to do.
My best friend.
It's you.
I don't even know her. That's awesome. Okay. So then you're at Iowa. It took, let's see, a couple of years for you to earn a scholarship?
Let's talk about sorry, don't mean to cut you off.
3 times now. It's okay.
Sorry. Was Iowa State and UNI, those were all walk-on opportunities?
I had a little bit of money from UNI.
So then what made you choose the walk-on at Iowa versus the money at UNI?
To me, it was like the coaches, I would say, and just like, the history of walk-ons at Iowa and how if you like pretty much do your job, you could kind of earn your spot, up the way.
So then you did eventually.
Yes,
who are you playing behind?
Jack Kerner. Yeah.
Okay. And now he's on the staff.
Yep.
That's funny. Is it weird to have somebody that you played with that's on the staff? He's a high energy dude.
Yeah. Not necessarily, because, I know Jack very well, but, he was the same as he was when he was here. So it's more or less the same.
He's one of my favorite people to watch on the sideline, aside from Coach Parker, because for obvious reasons. But Jack Kerner, the way he signals is like he's in the game. So intense.
Yeah.
He was doing this one. I don't know what that signal is for you guys, but I was like, his arms are going to be sore tomorrow. The way he's flapping his arms. So good. So what did you learn from Jack? And I guess what kind of propelled you forward in terms of being in the position that you are now?
I would say, Jack kind of talks about it all the time, but it's really just like getting the trust from Coach Parker to kind of get out there on the field. And so he really kind of taught me like the ins and outs of the defense, I would say, because there's just a lot that you have to learn and stuff. And so I was just kind of always in his hip pocket asking him questions and stuff. So,
because you're basically the middle linebacker, obviously Jay has to do a lot of communicating, but you're like the quarterback at the defensive backfield, right? So, I guess it's more like you just mentioned, but the more that probably leads more to I know what to do in this situation. So even if you're not in there, when you do get your opportunity, you already know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say too, even watching Jack for sitting behind him for those 3 years, it was oh, I remember this play from 2020 or 2019 and they do this here, this there. And then it's everything's kind of just built up in the back of your head, so.
It's a lot more film study on defense than it is on offense.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I always think it's interesting to talk about these stories too, just in the landscape that there is right now. And this is something we were just discussing 5 minutes before you walked in was what it looks like now with the transfer portal. If you're not playing your first or second year, you're gone. I'll just go somewhere else. But with guys like you and a lot of guys at Iowa choose to stay, and then their junior, senior year, they're the star of the show, right? That's got to be pretty cool for you.
Yeah, and I would say that's kind of a credit to Iowa. Just, we've been known as a developmental program. And so that starts with the strength staff too, I think. So it's rewarding to see, I guess, guys work up the ladder and finally get rewarded, at the end of their career.
Well, and when you're playing for a guy that just came out that he won the Broyles Award, like that's unbelievably cool.
Yep.
And you're playing for the best in the business. And this is like 10 years overdue. Like Coach Parker's defenses are always way up there.
Right. He probably should have won the award a couple more times before that, but
no kidding.
Playing for a guy like that, it's something that you can't take for granted. Each and every day you walk in the building. So just kind of very happy for him and his success.
Well, and like I talked about, I think at the beginning of the year, on offense, we had, Deacon and Cade and Eric. I think there's an offensive lineman that I'm blanking on. And then you got Seth Anderson and Caleb Brown and like all these transfers that came in. And on defense, you had Nick Jackson. Mm-hmm. And like, that was basically it, right? Like, it's kind of interesting how a guy that's been at that top of the level, like Jay Higgins, is going to sit behind Jack Campbell. And then he gets 1 year and he's like, all right, I'm going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just goes to show the stability that Coach Parker is. And I mean, he's been there since 99. He knows the ins and outs of everything, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I mean, to be a part of like that kind of stability, I feel like it's got to make you feel good too.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think, he's talked to us and so is Coach Ferentz about, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So that's nice to hear. But, I think just, coming in the defense, there's a lot of things that you have to learn, over the years. And even like for Nick, just trying to like speed up his learning process, that was something that for us, it was like he came kind of late in the summer. And so it was like, geez, Nick, are you sure like you're going to be ready to go? Because like there's a lot to learn on this defense. And I think he'll tell you now, like even still now, he's still learning everything. Like some days there's one thing like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know that. Like, and I've been here for this long, like. But so it takes a little bit to kind of learn the defense and develop. And I think it's just a credit to everyone else helping each other out.
Well, then maybe to that point, like everybody talks about, it's just a base defense. It's just a base defense. Like I know that there are more than just like 4 calls that y'all make, but to say that you got to be in the system for like 2 or 3 years to truly understand it, which is why the fact that you develop on that side of the ball and everybody plays at a high level is because you know what's going on. Is there anything you want to say to like, I mean, you don't have to say how complex it is, but there's definitely a lot more nuance, I think, than what people give it credit for.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, you talked about it like Jay earlier as a Mike linebacker. I've always said like Mike's the hardest position to play at Iowa. Just because like he's got to set like the defensive lineup before the play, and then he's also got to hear what the secondary is doing, and then kind of base stuff off that too. So there's just a lot of different like twists and turns depending on what the offense does too, with the formation or motions or something like that. So.
Sure. And like I'll see him go up there and like smack somebody's butt to like move him over a gap or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But like not only that, and then he's probably got to know like, okay, Kyler Fisher's in the game, so we're in a different, because their personnel is different, we expect different things, right? And now it's like, okay, Castro got moved down, Xavier's back here. Is that interesting too, that like sometimes, sorry, I'm getting into like football stuff because now I'm a nerd, but like you see Xavier and Sebastian, does that change like communication, or do you guys communicate a little bit differently between the two? Just knowing that different personnel requires different people on the field?
Like between all of us, you're saying?
Because there's like 3 safeties essentially, right? I mean, I know Sebastian plays that cash position, but it's a little bit like this. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's not as basic as people make it.
No, yeah.
Because there's so many moving pieces.
Right. And that's why I think, it's important to build a relationship with each and every guy that you're communicating with. And luckily, we all have a great relationship in the back end. Like when I'm talking to Castro or when I'm talking to Xavier, it's more or less, the same. I trust them. We're all checking each other pre-snap or pre-play that we're all going to be in the right spot. And same with Jay too. So.
Gotcha. Which, I mean, that kind of goes back to like the family atmosphere of Iowa, right? Because coaches care about the players. And I've talked about this before, that I think KF and Coach Parker, but KF, because he's the head guy, wants to set the example of like, you're going to be better men when you leave the program. And just hearing that right there of like, you need to build a relationship with your teammates to get out there. Like you hear about the NFL stuff and it's like you show up, you go to work and you go home, but I was just not that way. And I think that's kind of an appeal for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, just kind of, KF talks about it like, if you're eating a meal, you want to be able to sit down and talk to the guy across from you. And I think that's kind of where it starts. But also it starts in the locker room too. And we have a lot of fun in the locker room too. So, yeah. So
then you earned your scholarship your 3rd year? Is that right?
Yep.
And what was that moment like, I guess, when you found that out?
Yeah, I was in shock. It was, Coach Ferentz told me, like in the middle of a summer, like 7-on-7. And, yeah.
What?
We were just like doing DB drills, and he just pulled me aside and just told me that I was on scholarship. I was just like, oh, thank you, I guess. I don't know what to do. And then I went back and just did my next rep. So I was just like kind of shocked. So
That feels like a very Coach Ferentz story.
yeah.
Don't make a big hoopla out of it. We're not going to blow this up and make it a viral Twitter video. I'm
Right.
just going to let you know that you're on scholarship now.
Right.
That's really cool.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, how did you, I mean, obviously you had to jump right back into practice, but internally you had to have felt like, okay, right?
Yeah. I was very excited. And then I went home, told my parents. I just drove home to Cedar Rapids, told them, and surprised my mom at work. And so everyone was very happy. So
That's incredible. What's your mom do for work?
she's a lawyer.
Cool. The coolest family ever. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. So,
So then that would explain why your brother is kind of inspired to do that as well.
yeah.
And what are your plans aside from NFL?
We'll say 15 years, after you're in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you like major in? Do you have
Well, I majored I've been pre-dental. So dental school has been like an option too. So
very good. Would you ever, so let's say you're in the league for 10 years, then would you go back to dental school?
probably not. No. But
That's all. Well, Iowa
that's
has a
best
really
case
good dental.
scenario. Yeah. Yes, they do.
Yeah, best case scenario, of course, which is obviously going to happen. But I do want to go back and just ask you, like, what is it like to be coached by Coach Parker? Because there are a lot of times, and I know there are fans that are right behind your guys' benches, but I walk behind your guys' benches a lot during games. He's a wild guy.
Yep.
He's got some colorful language, like a lot of coaches do.
Yep.
And he is
Yeah.
in the zone, like during games. Like what are kind of his personality traits that attracted you to him as a coach?
I would say like his intensity for the game. Like I don't know how old he is now, but like if he came to practice now, just like you were saying, he'd be the same guy he was on Monday as he is on Tuesday, if he messed something up. But he does talk about like, he tries to like for game day kind of build up like a little rage so that like he goes into game day like kind of mad. So like I stay away from him from like Friday through Saturday because he's kind of in the zone. So
That's funny. I would love to know his process of building rage.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to know.
What's crazy is I feel like he's less ragey now than when I played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like
that's what people say too. That he's like kind of toned it down. Yeah.
He used to be crazy.
In a great way.
In a great way.
He gets,
Right.
But yeah, he
gets
would.
the best out of you guys.
Yeah, he was angrier before, I think, in his quote old age. I hope that doesn't go viral. But anyway, yeah, I know since he's gotten a little bit older, I know he's mellowed out, if you can imagine.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he mellows out a little bit more too. So.
That's awesome. Okay, so then what else do you like to do outside of football? Do you have any hobbies? Or is it just sports? And that's
Well,
okay too.
I was gonna say I like to golf, so
Very
I
good.
don't know if,
Good golfer?
average, not the best, but
Average. Like, can you go play Finkbine and be okay?
yeah.
Oh, no, that's above average. I lost count last time I played Finkbine.
Really?
I hit like 105 and I was like, I'm done counting.
Okay, but that's probably where I would be at too.
Okay, I feel a little bit better.
Okay.
But
What clubs you use?
my dad's old clubs from like the 1980s or something, so not very good.
Is the
clubs.
wood like an actual wood? Is it like a wooden wood?
No, it's an iron, like a
It's
regular
like,
iron.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, they got old school ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we need to get you an NIL deal with some golf clubs.
Yeah.
Get you a set of
that'd
your
be
own.
nice. Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Shields, or somebody who sells golf clubs. I don't even know.
That hurts.
What would be a good golf place?
I mean, Shields has decent stuff. I feel like there's just one called the Golf Store. That's like,
In Iowa City.
yeah, or Corville, like on First Ave there. I
Mhm.
think it's just called the Golf Store or something.
Okay. We'll send him a message on behalf of Talkin Hawks and behalf of Quinn Schulte.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Hook him up
Yeah.
with an NIL deal. That's awesome. Okay. I don't know.
Well,
Do you have
speaking of NIL, like, how has that shifted? Because NIL wasn't a thing when you first got here, right?
Mhm.
So, like, I'm sure you've seen probably both good and bad side of it, but how has that kind of shaped? I wouldn't say it probably changes anything you do, but it's just more opportunities come your way. Is that's kind of
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, for me, as being like a former walk-on, like I'm just grateful for any opportunity really to have any sort of like money or anything added. But it's kind of just been, another opportunity to kind of interact with the community too, and just, yeah.
Very good.
Well, I know Nico had like he showed me an email that you guys had gotten about like going to different events and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like in season? I can't imagine KF being like, take every advantage, do everything in
no.
season. Like I can't imagine.
Yeah,
that.
there's really not events during the season, but we had like I mean, I think one during the bye week, there's an event, and in the summer or the spring, there's more events, but
which makes more sense. I mean, you're just doing winter conditioning and stuff like that.
Right.
So now you found out you guys are playing New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
How does bowl prep look now compared to like before? Like, is it something like, I know we had talked about like you do 2 different game weeks. We had talked about doing that, or sometimes like before the last time we played Tennessee didn't go very well. And so we just kind of like, we practiced a ton, I feel like, during that time. Is it kind of like, do you kind of get to take a step back and look at the developmental guys, or at least for a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that starts, I mean, we haven't gotten our schedule in totally yet, but next week I think is kind of more mellowed back, just because like when you add a week with the Big Ten championship too, there's kind of more time to rest, but also I think that next week the younger guys will start getting a lot of reps. And then once, game week comes around before we leave, we'll definitely up the tempo, or at least, or up it for preparing for Tennessee.
Sure.
So,
And the whole fam's going to go down to Orlando, I'm assuming.
Nice.
That's so much fun.
Yep.
What other bowl games have you been to? Music City.
Yeah, that was last year, right? Well, we were Orlando 2 years ago, and then the Holiday Bowl in 19.
Okay. What has been your favorite?
Orlando, actually.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Why is that?
The warm weather,
That's
Florida
Florida.
Bowl is California.
Yeah. Well, it was actually kind of rainy and cold. I don't know if you guys went to that, but
We didn't.
it was kind of
Little
colder than
kids, man.
Yeah. But so
Nice. Okay. So we're headed into, let's see, this is your senior year. You did senior day. Maybe you're not ready to answer this question yet, but are you coming back next year? Do you have the COVID year?
I do technically have a COVID year.
Have you decided?
I have not decided.
Have
anything
not
yet,
decided.
no. So
We'll leave it at that. I'm not going to press on that one, but we'd love to have you back.
yeah.
Get you on Talkin Hawks again next year.
There you go. Yeah.
He's in.
That's reason
it.
alone.
Very good. Okay, Quinn. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you
It
guys.
was a good time.
Yeah, we wish you the best of luck in Orlando, and enjoy the warm weather.
Yep. Thank you very much.
This season, Marquee Pizzeria is teaming up with Nico Reganey to help the University of Iowa Children's Hospital. Together, they've created a new signature pizza, the Nico Parm. Sounds so good. $2 of every pizza will be donated to the Children's Hospital. Visit Marquee Pizzeria, located in the Coralville River Landing, this fall and help the kids by eating pizza.
If you're not in the mood for pizza.
If you're not, I love Estella's because it is fresh, from the fresh grilled steak to the salsas to their fresh pressed tortillas.
I love Estella's because it's quick. We can get in and out. And it doesn't feel like fast food. It feels like fresh food quick.
Yeah, we both love Estella's because it is made with love. They put a lot of pride in their food and customer service, and they are locally owned. Plus, it was my biggest pregnancy craving, I will say that too. That's Estella's Fresh Mex. Fresh food made quick with love.
Locally owned and operated, Performance is a full-service restoration company serving Eastern Iowa. As an IICRC certified firm, their multi-licensed technicians have decades of experience in water, mold, and fire mitigation. Whether it's your home or business, this is the team you want in a time of need. Performance Restoration, 319-626-2292.
The Appliance Barn offers a wide range of high-quality appliances at unbeatable prices.
Whether you're in the market for a new refrigerator, dishwasher, or washing machine, they've got you covered.
They also have a delivery and setup department to ensure your appliances get delivered and installed quickly.
To find out more, visit appliancebarn.com.
Welcome back, Quinn Schulte. Such an interesting man.
Yeah.
I love stories. I love life stories. I love family stories, especially. So many of the athletes that we've had on here were like, what's your brother do? He's a lawyer. Oh, what's your sister do? Oh, she's a Olympic
Olympian.
medalist, a gold medalist in water polo, Deacon Hill.
And also the multiple sports. That
And the
doesn't get
multiple
lost on
sports.
anything. And it's like, oh, we would just go out back and play.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what's so, I think, very cool, especially in a world that's kind of not documented, but dominated by screens.
Mm-hmm.
And like to hear all these guys, like, oh, we just go out back and like Quinn said, play capture the flag. Like I don't remember the last time I heard somebody say capture the flag, but that was a great game growing up.
So good. Quinn Schulte, pod friend.
Pod friend.
So this whole season, we've been saying Cade McNamara, friend of the pod. Jay Higgins, friend of the pod. Turns out, friend of the pod is like a whole thing from a different podcast. And
So-
we didn't know it. So we're like, well, we should probably stop saying that so we're not stealing it from somebody else. Therefore, James came up with pod friend. James, one of our producers. And so Quinn Schulte, pod friend.
Pod friend.
I don't know if that's going to carry, how long that's going to last, but We'll keep it.
Okay, let's just transition to the next part.
Okay, so we don't want to do our preview of Tennessee right now because that game isn't for...
It's for a couple weeks. Some people might opt out, which we can talk about. Some people may enter the transfer portal. I don't know what that looks like. Like, I don't know if once you commit to a school, like you just are there now, or if you finish out the semester at the school you're at, or if it's based on the academic year. And then once that semester's done, like I don't really know how that works. So it'll be nicer to figure out who's going to play, I guess, once we get closer.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of transfers or transfer portal.
People leaving the program.
Correct. Deontay Vines, pod friend, and a couple other ones. Spencer Petras, obviously headed to Utah State.
Yeah, happy for him.
Yep. Wish him the best of luck there. Who else?
Ontario Thomas, who blocked 2 punts this year. You want to talk about something that has no rules and just goes by whatever. Transfer portal, definitely it. You know,
wild.
Like he entered the transfer portal, or at least he announced it on Twitter. Then the next day he had like 5 offers. And we've heard Eric talk about it. We've heard Cade talk about it of like, I would just spend my entire day on my phone if that's all I did. So I wish them the best of luck, you know, and I've talked about this, I think before, of like, the transfer portal is a very interesting spot to be because you're not only going against all the upcoming high school athletes, which are all based on potential, you're also going against all the college players that are now wanting to switch. And it's not as often as you see like a Cade McNamara. Now, granted, he started at a Big Ten school, good Big Ten school in Michigan. So you knew he was going to have other good places to go. But I think a lot of these guys, like they don't find playing time at Iowa. So where are they going to go? Are they end up going to, are they going to go, Big Ten, ACC, kind of a Power 5? Are they going to go Group of 5 where it's like MAC Conference or the Athletic American Conference? I think I said that backwards. I think it's the American Athletic Conference, AAC. Like, it's going to be interesting kind of see where everybody falls, but there's such a talent pool of like, where do you pull from, especially if you're these colleges? I mean, I can't imagine being a college coach, having to communicate to all these different players, and you only get so many scholarships. So it's like, okay, well, and most colleges are going to over give or over offer. So like, let's say I've got 25 scholarships. I'm going to offer probably 30 to 35 because I know I'm not going to get all 25 of those kids, or I'm not going to get all 35. I'm going to get, let's say 17 or whatever it is. So it's just weird how you evaluate talent. Like, do you evaluate college versus college, or do you evaluate high school versus high school?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And then you think about being a coach and you're set to recruit, and it's like, okay, I want to recruit some high school guys. But now, like, do they go visit the college guys?
Oh, like how does that work?
Yeah, like are they visiting?
Well, the colleges would come and like they would take a visit here, as far as I know.
That's what I'm saying. Like, not only are you in the end of your season, it's November. You got a break at this point before your bowl season, or your bowl game. But now it's okay. Now I'm going to pack up and go do more recruiting. But this time for college guys that are in the transfer portal looking to go somewhere else. Like, it's just another added thing.
I don't think coaches get to go to other campuses.
They don't. Okay.
Well, that's what Michigan's whole thing is, right? Is that they were scouting off campus?
I don't
like
know.
The signal stealing thing. I think that's what it is. I don't think coaches can go to other campuses, but I think players can go visit other campuses.
So, okay. So
I'm not entirely sure.
So Deontay Vines says, okay, I'm in the transfer portal, and example,
Pitt.
Pitt.
Pitt gave him an offer.
Okay. So they just gave him an offer without coming to see him in person? Like to say, hi, my name's head coach of Pitt. I'd love to have you come. And then Deontay is like, oh, nice to meet you. I'd love to play for you. He just has to say, seems like a good
I appreciate
place.
the opportunity. I'll wait to see how everything shakes out.
That's wild. So that even adds another layer.
Well, that's kind of what Cade alluded to when he was on, right?
Yeah.
Of like, they just call and be like, hey, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in your school.
It's crazy.
That's a phone call.
Yeah. And it's just, you think about the ages of these guys. I don't know how old Deontay is, but you think about 21, 22.
Anywhere probably from 17 to 24.
Okay. 21-year-old Matt has to make a decision on his own, essentially, because you're not having, like, your mom's not right next to you, phone call away, whatever. But it's not like you're in high school and you're under the same roof and all of these things, right? You're making decisions together. Like, you're pretty much making a decision for yourself to potentially go somewhere else, have a different set of academics, a completely different, like, friend group and locker room and guys that you're next to and coaching staff. And you're making all of these decisions just by yourself. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's a lot to put on a person. And not only that, but you're still finishing up academics at your school that you're at right now. And going through the process of like, hey, head coach that I've been playing for the last 2 years, 1 year, 3 years, I'm going to be leaving. Like having those conversations. It's a lot.
I've thought about that a lot. I've thought about
juggle.
like being able to go in and talk to KF and be like, hey, it's not working out for me. I can't imagine those conversations.
It's just a lot to juggle and a lot to manage on a person that is very young. And like Cade and Eric said, your phone completely just blowing up. Texts, emails, phone numbers, like your contact information, the second you enter the transfer portal is just blasted out to every single one of them. That is unbelievable. It is just the Wild West.
I'm waiting for guardrails. Really?
We'll see.
But the other part that I also didn't mention is that you're recruiting other kids that are in the transfer portal. You're recruiting high schoolers that are going against high schoolers. You low key have to recruit your own guys.
You're right.
To not leave.
Very true.
You know, I mean, even if it's just as simple as like, hey, we want depth at this position. Don't go. We're going to develop you. Like that's like obviously defensive side of the ball, we've been able to do that relatively well. And we brought in an all conference player in Nick Jackson. And like Quinn mentioned, like, but this defense might take a couple years to fully click. Like, I mean, it's just wild to me.
There's a lot of different, your favorite word, nuances
I mean,
that go into
you're recruiting high schoolers, you're recruiting your kids, you're recruiting college kids, other college kids. I mean, like how, and that's why I think it's so interesting when you talk to, because I think Coach Farron said we haven't had those discussions yet of like how they're going to approach the transfer portal. I mean, how does a developmental school turn to that? Offensively, we had a lot of them. Defense, we didn't. Like it's just an interesting part of the game that I think there's merit to both. Like I think it's very tough to say, hey, I'm not good enough to play here. Or I don't want to play just 1 or 2 years if I'm not going to make the league. I get that. But I also, I also understand of like, well, no, I'm going to stick it out. And there's stick-to-itiveness, as some people might say. But like, okay, I'm going to wait my turn. I'm going to be Jay Higgins and I'm going to have 9,000 tackles my senior year because I've waited this long and I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity.
It's just as a sophomore in college, being able, or a freshman in college, or
to discern that
of, well, that's definitely a possibility for me. I could be Jay, I could be Quinn, and like just hoping that you see that through, and like betting on yourself in a way, right?
Well, either way you are.
Yeah, true.
Like, hey, I'm going to outwork everybody else that comes in that's supposed to beat me, because that's what recruiting is, right? And every receiver that was brought in, my class and after me, is supposed to be on the field. Right. They don't bring somebody in. Most of the time, there are exceptions, but most of the time they bring somebody in because they want that person to be on the field and to play for them. Not to like leave, not to, well, we just want you to sit behind this guy. Like, no, I want you to compete for the job so that way you push everybody else, because when the room is competitive, inevitably everybody gets better. And if you don't, then the cream rises to the top, then those that deserve the playing time find it. Yeah. But you don't bring somebody in just to sit there. Like it's, I'm definitely not jealous of the college coaches and how much work that they now have to do all of the time. Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's, you talk about Iowa being a developmental school, and everybody knows that. I think that's pretty well known, and they do it well. And so when the whole transfer portal thing, the whole NIL thing came out, my initial gut reaction was like, oh gosh, this could be tough for Iowa, because guys are coming here to develop, and they get better by their junior, their senior year, and find their way on the field, and there it is. But then you talk about, you're not bringing in that many 4- or 5-star recruits on purpose, by the way. You're bringing in the Matt Vandenbergs from Brandon, South Dakota. You're bringing in the Josie Jewels, the 2-star guys, the no-star guys like Quinn Schulte, and developing them and having them be behind the guys that you've developed before, right? And so it's like you're not bringing in guys that you're going to write them a $3 million check right out the gates, like USC. Like literally, I'm pretty sure their quarterback got like a $3 million NIL deal, not NIL, but yeah, like essentially NIL deal through USC. That's unbelievable. And so you think about like, that's not the game that I was going to play. And so talking about like
KF, I don't think, has really changed their game plan that much. And look at them competing for a Big Ten championship. I think it's a huge testament to we are a developmental school. We are going to take the 2-star guys and the no-star guys like Quinn, who aren't looking for a $3 million payout. They're looking for an opportunity. They're looking for a chance to play football because they love the game. And I think that's pretty amazing. And that's the thing about Hawkeye fans too, is like, we're in the Midwest. We're hard workers. We're farmers, not all of us, but we're in that atmosphere, that environment. That's what we're surrounded by. And that's what we like to see out on the football field. That's what we like to see representing us too. We want to see that. And being a Hawkeye fan and a Cedar Rapidian my whole life is like, that's what I like about it. That's what's beautiful about it. That's what makes it so special, is like, we have the Josie Jewels. We have the Quinn Schultes. I keep bringing them up because that's who we just talked to. We have the Matt Vandenbergs, and those are the stories. Those are the guys that are like willing to put in the time, willing to put in the work. And that's what we like to see. And that's why it's so attractive and why we're all so bought into it. And Hawkeye fans love it so much. I just went on a tangent, but I think a lot of Hawk fans and lifelong Hawk fans can agree with all of that, that's why Iowa is so great.
And I'd say that's true for the defensive side of the ball and for special teams, because I think Coach Woods brings in guys that fit the mold. Offensively, I think it's been different the last couple of years.
Sure.
Outside of the running back position, you think about like LeSean Williams, like Gavin Williams left, but LeSean Williams has kind of stuck it out, knew he wasn't going to be the number one guy. And that story, because now he's the most consistent guy, and he found that when it's late in games and you need to have yards, or you need to set up the game winner against Nebraska, or you got to get 6 yards, like it's LeSean Williams getting the carry, not Caleb Johnson, who was supposed to be RB1 entering the year. Don't get me wrong, great talent. But LeSean Williams has kind of like waited his turn, like Jazz gets reps and then he waits and then boom, he's out. You look at the receiver room. I mean, you had 2 between Seth and Caleb. You had Cade McNamara, you had Eric All, offensive line. Like, I mean, almost every position except for running back had a transfer. So it's going to be interesting. And I think that's why defense has been so good. Like at the very beginning, we talked about Prime, and we talked about Coach Sanders at Colorado bringing in all these transfers, and it worked right away. And everybody was surprised. But then like over time, it's like, okay, well, you haven't been built into a system. Like the system develops you. If you're brought in for a year, you don't get that same development as like being there for 5, 4, even 3 years. We've had like James Daniels left after his junior year. Like that is how you get development, not necessarily moving parts all the time. Like Nick Jackson, Quinn was just saying, like Nick's still learning some of the intricacies of the defense. Like that's why they're so good, is because they develop on that side of the ball. If we're able to get that kind of stability in the offensive side of the ball, I feel like then yes, to your point, like Iowa will be or continue to be a powerhouse on both sides.
That's actually a really good point. I don't think that's one that's been pointed out as much throughout this entire season of like, man, the offense is, people are complaining about it and this and that. And there's issues here, there's issues there. And it's like, well, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts that these people have been here for 6 months of learning the system. And the Iowa offensive system, I mean, you've been through it. It's not, I'm not going to say it's.
Well, I've been through 1 year of Bryant.
1 year Bryant.
I went through 4 of Davis.
Okay. And it's difficult.
It's definitely different than what I went under Davis.
Sure.
I don't believe I had any mental errors looking back at it, but it's definitely different than the system that I came from.
Right.
Which again, 4 years in a Davis system, I was playing my best football. I knew the ins and outs. I knew what was expected. I was playing with the quarterback for my 4th year, 3rd year. Like I knew what he expected of me. Mm-hmm. And so like that kind of camaraderie just doesn't get built overnight.
So true. And then you see, and this is going off on like a little bit of a tangent here, but then you see like you've got Stanley, who's in his 1st year starting for your final 5th year, a new offensive system that you're trying to learn and implement.
New position.
And that's what a lot of these transfer guys are going through too.
Every time.
And like you said, you didn't have any mental errors, but I'm just going to say this, you're really smart.
Well, I did go inside on a sail. It would have been a perfect game against Illinois, but that still sticks there. But outside of that, yes, I didn't have many.
My point is that that's actually a really good and valid point, that it's tough to get all those moving parts when you've got new guys that haven't been built into this same system for multiple years and built a relationship with your quarterback. Oh, and by the way, here's the 2nd string that's going to have to come in too, because our main quarterback, or our QB1, got hurt. Oh, and he's also the 1st year in Bryant's system too. So there are just so many moving parts, and that is what's happening to college football. It's wild. And these guys like, yeah, going to have to go out and learn an entire new system in the next however many 9 months before next football season.
Well, and to that point, like verbiage is completely different. Routes are different. A hook in Brian's system is a curl in Davis' system.
And then you think about what Quinn was saying about our defense is like, yeah, with all those guys kind of moving in and out and different coverages and this and that, like you have to have a relationship with your players. And how do you build that to the point of where it would be in 3 years in a matter of 9 months? Good luck. Wow, I just had a revelation. Well done. Thank you so much.
Well, you think about that and you think about verbiage too. Like verbiage is very simple. Like it's just words you say, but they mean completely different things. Like Davis system, gun right jack, scat, 381 hook curl. So like gun right jack is the formation, scat is the protection, 381 hook curl is the play. I guess like the route combination depending upon, and 381 hook curl, all those numbers and words mean something to a particular like X, A, Z, like that's the route you run. And then in Brian's system, it was at the time, gun 4 is the formation, 69 or 68 is a protection, and then hook is the play. And that like tells everybody what to do.
I zoned out during that whole thing. But okay.
So it went word,
No,
number,
okay.
and now it's number, word.
Oh, sure.
And it's going to be different through everybody. Like, okay, are you going to call the formation? Is it just going to be one word for the entire play? Are you going to tell each player what they're doing? Like, do you have to tag everything so now plays get super long? Like, there's more to it than just learn a new offense.
Right.
Like there's
or just go to a new school.
Or just go to a new school. You're going to have to learn an entire new system, entire new plays, and figure out how to be coached. Unreal.
Okay, so transfer portal. Crazy.
Wild.
I think we touched on every what the heck of all of it. So the other thing that you didn't really have to deal with, and we'll just do this really quickly, is NIL. And I shouldn't
deal
say
with or get the opportunity. Yeah.
Yes. I remember when you were still playing, they would do certain jerseys of the bigger players at Shields. Yes. And you got one. And I was like, oh my gosh, you got a jersey at Shields. That's amazing. That anybody can buy. And that was really cool. But you didn't get a cut of it. That's just the way that it was at that point.
No, but mine was worth more than LaShawn Daniels.
No,
shout out, buddy.
That's not. I'm not talking about your old jerseys. I'm talking about
just the fact that 89 was there.
The 89
I thought you meant
there.
my game worn one, which those also were sold at Shields.
It doesn't matter. I'm talking about the ones where you can get a small, medium,
generic
or large
89.
in an 89.
Gotcha.
Yes. And it was really cool. But now you can get paid for that, which is even cooler.
Well, it would have been cool.
Yes, it was still cool that you got that. That was a big honor, I thought. But yeah, it's a totally different landscape with that too, because there's so many different opportunities that these, again, 18 to 24-year-old athletes are having to sift through. Not only are you academics, right? And depending on your major, it can be pretty tough. And then you've got a full schedule of football. We know that that's morning, noon, and night. And then on top of that, opportunities with events and signings and just showing up places just to be there for businesses and selling T-shirts and being a part of, the list goes on and on and on and on. And it's cool to see a lot of our guys that are using this opportunity to benefit different places and different organizations. Obviously, we've seen Cade just did something with T-shirts for the Children's Hospital. A lot of other players have done things to donate to the Children's Hospital. Tori, Every Kick Counts. Drew Stevens has been involved in that too. I think Cooper was involved in it or something else to that point. But yeah, that's cool to see that our players have done a lot of that kind of stuff too, and not just kind of reap the benefits for themselves, but spread it amongst the community. So that's awesome to see. But it is definitely a lot for them to manage. And they've given us some insight off camera of these are the kind of emails and stuff that we get to be yeah, come do this thing or that thing and we'll pay you blank amount, and just having to sift through that.
Crazy.
And trying to figure out is this a good opportunity? Do I want to be associated with this? Right? Because I remember when they were doing Barstool athletes, right away when NIL came out, and I was oh man, yes, it's cool, but Barstool definitely has its own demographic and its own way of
they just have their own connotation, their own content.
Yes, their own type of content. And so it's you have to weigh would I like to have the affiliation with a company like Barstool that's got a name and they can pump my name out and get me more opportunities and more money? Or do I want to be affiliated with Barstool that has that connotation and that type of content? Does that match up with my values and my name, right? Having to sift through that at the age of 21 Forget it.
And
I was not.
exclusivity, you don't know what you're signing some of the time. Like,
I was not ready for that. That's for sure. At 21, I just can't imagine. And not only that, but you don't have an agent. I mean, some guys do.
some guys do, and they take, like, I saw agents were taking 20% off the top.
Crazy.
Usually that's like 2 to 3.
Yeah. So that's just a whole nother thing. There's just so many nuances.
You keep making fun of me for using that word. It's a great word.
You just
And it
use
makes sense.
all the time. Anyway, I don't know if we gave anybody any information of the transfer portal and NIL that they didn't already know. Hopefully there was a little bit of insight there. Maybe just loved to listen to our opinions and thoughts. I don't know. I thought you had some like good points about the transfer portal. It was interesting. The landscape of college football and NCAA and athletics in general. Seeing Caitlin Clark on a State Farm commercial is so cool.
And on the Manning cast on Monday Night Football.
So cool.
Dope.
And like she couldn't have done that, 5, 6, 7 years ago or how many years ago that was. And just being able to draw that amount of attention to the state of Iowa, incredible.
Very cool.
We could go on and on about Caitlin though, how much she's done for women's basketball, women's sports, the university, the state, et cetera, et cetera. But it's cool that she gets to, have a big piece in NIL and show what that can do for you.
For sure.
When you excel at your sport. And not only that, but do it in a really good way. She just
carries herself well.
You
don't hear of any, you saw the one thing that they tried to make a story, which goes back to my media thing of like not fully understanding the story and taking it out of context and then creating your own narrative.
Right.
When she's doing it to her own team. And like, so that becomes a thing. But outside of that, like nothing.
Yeah.
They asked her about it, on ESPN. She's like, oh no, we're cool.
Right.
Like she's doing it the right way from everything that we see. She's doing it the right way, which is the Iowa way, I guess you could say, like the Lisa Bluter way. But that part is very cool.
Okay. Well, we are headed to the Cheez-It Bowl.
You don't have to say it like that.
I just love the name of bowl games. That's for sure going to be one of our segments when we do our preview. So I'm going to talk about all the different bowl games. Their names.
It used to be the Capital One Bowl.
The Duke Mayonnaise Bowl, where they dump mayo on the winning coach. Can we not? We'll go into it just a little bit more.
All I can hear right now is, I'm the cheesiest coach from that commercial.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I can hear right now.
Okay. Anyway, all right. We will do our preview, like we said, on Tennessee as the game gets closer, probably like the week before. And I have some interviews, some insight on bowl prep and all that good stuff from now until the bowl game. So stay tuned. As always, make sure you're subscribing on YouTube, comment.
Comment anything.
Don't comment anything. Comment nice things. And make sure you're giving us a 5-star review if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts.
Spotify.
Or Spotify, leave a review. I don't know how Spotify works that much, but we just appreciate all of you guys tuning in. And if you like all of our content, make sure that you're sharing it on social media as well. We want to spread Talkin Hawks however we can.
We just want to keep talking Hawks.
We just want to keep doing it. Be a friend, a pod friend.
Be a pod friend.
All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.